Hey guys, today we're going to take an S-crank. I got one of these. I cut it in half. We're going to make stencils for it. I'll show you how the whole procedure is done to get a stencil made, and then we're going to paint this in a crawl pattern. Stick with me. Alright, in case you didn't watch the other video I did on making stencils, let me tell you a little about this. It's just a small box, about 9 inches by 10 inches. You can buy your pegboard with all the holes. I didn't happen to have any on hand. I drilled my own. Put some duct tape around it, so I got this down to about 5 by 6 because that's plenty enough size. The box is about 3 inches thick, 3.5 inches deep, I should say. And at one end, there's a hole. And what we're going to do with the hole is push in my shop vac. So I push the hose in for my shop vac real well. Now, I've got the S-cranks here. You can see a little bit of paint on those. That's one I used and didn't like it and washed it all off. So I thought, hey, that's a good one to cut in half. So we'll put 2 of them on. That way we get both sides at the same time. Let's put them this way. How's that? I got a little more space that way. Now, for stencil material. Show you this real quick. Here is stencil blanks. It's called show-offs. I got it at Hobby Lobby. You can see $2.99. Actually, I used my 40% off and it was under $2. 3 sheets in here, 9 inches by 18. Now, you could probably cut those in thirds and get them by, but I go ahead and cut it in half. So, I figure I spent less than $2. I'm going to get 6 of these for less than $2. So why try to stretch it to get 9 for less than $2? We're not talking that much. Alright, so we're going to set these 2 on. We're going to put our stencil material over the top. Next thing we're going to do, the heat gun. Get the Wagner heat gun, we'll put it on high. We'll run that till we start seeing the plastic start to loosen up and getting soft and forming. When we do that, we'll kick on the shop vac. And of course, during all this, you're probably not going to hear this very well. So, but here we go. Keep moving it all the time so it doesn't sit in one spot. And get her good and soft. Constantly move it around. Alright, we're starting to soften up a little bit. Getting ready here. Alright, there we go. Just pop them out. And there will be our stencil. We're going to go ahead and we'll cut this out real quick. Hang on, I'm going to grab a scissors here. And there we go. We have our 2 halves of our stencils. Sit right up inside and fit in there really good. Alright, next thing will be put our markings on the stencil. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to want to put the crawl pattern on the stencil. The way I like to do it first is I like to draw it on the blank, and that way we put it there first and come through. And I'm going to come down like this, a crawl pattern. We're just going to curve over. Not going to be anything real fancy here. We're going to curve. Now if you notice, I don't go all the way. Hold that up a little closer if I can. Don't go all the way. If you go all the way, you end up with a flap. You need some stability so you don't go all the way with it. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to do 3 of them. Alright, now I'm going to mark them all the way to the top. I won't cut them all the way to the top, but I'm going to mark them that way for a reason. Now, I'm going to put the 2 halves together. And roughly just hold them together here. We don't have to be perfect here. But what I want to do now is mark the other half, so that way when I make this side, they'll be in the same location as the other side. Came up just in front of that, so we'll come on down, Curve around like that. Curve around like that. And curve around like that. Alright, there we go. Alright, probably not exactly perfect, but hey, the fish is only going to see one side, right? Now, the key next is let's transfer it over to the stencil. So now we'll just set the stencil in, and hopefully you can see, we can see our marks in there. We'll just come down here, mark that, and mark that. And there we go. Other side. There they are. Come down, mark that one. And that one. And that one. And there we are. Alright, next thing we got to do, we got to cut them out. Now, when it comes to cutting these out, I like to use an X-Acto knife. Nice and sharp. And here's the way I do this. Instead of just taking this and trying to do that, I'll take my blank, put it on top. That way you got a good solid surface to work with as you're trying to cut these. And after that, I just use the X-Acto knife, start making my cuts. Because you want to take your time, this is the most boring part. There's the first one off. Only 5 more to go. Alright, here we are. All cut out. If you can see that a little bit through the camera, hopefully. Now here's the key, as I mentioned. Don't connect these. If you would take that all the way over and touch that, this piece would be flapping in the breeze, so to speak. And so would this one. And when you hit it with the air and the paint gun, it might pick that up just a little bit. So don't quite touch them. And that leaves your stencil a lot more solid. Otherwise, you're going to have things flopping around. All right, we got them made. Next thing to do, let's do some painting. All right, guys, we're going to make this a real simple pattern. It's called a Berkeley Table Rock Craw. Saw it in the catalog a couple years ago. I really liked the color, so I thought let's do that. All right, start with, as always, Createx Opaque White. We need to get that base coat on there so all the colors will look right when we put them on later. There we go. And that's all it is for the base coat. Let me clean out the airbrush and we'll move on. Okay, for the belly, I'm going to go Createx Transparent. And I like this Caribbean blue, real nice light color blue. That's what we're going to use on the belly. Just go up the side a little ways, not too far up. And that's going to be enough. We're going to quit right there. Alright, let me clean up. We'll move on to the next color. Now, for the main body of the lure, for the back, going Createx Pearlized Copper. Pearl copper for the back. Again, just across the top, let it blend down into the blue on the side. Don't forget that nose. Don't forget that tail. Alright, there we go. Got the copper on. Now, I'm going to take the heat gun. I'm going to dry this real well because I got to put stencil over the top of it. I got to make sure all that paint is good and dry. Alright, time to put on our stencils. Now, normally, let us say you're going to be using the opaque black and putting the black markings on. That would be great. Just go ahead and load it, put them on, and spray it over. Problem is, I don't want to use black. The table rock crawl that I saw uses blue. And I believe, without doing it first, I still believe that if I put the light blue over the top of the copper, it's not going to look right. It's not going to come out light blue. The color will change because of the colors underneath, especially being a transparent paint. So, how do we take care of that? Well, as I've always said, if you want your colors to come out right, you got to paint it white first, then you paint what you want. So, we're going to take this, we're going to put our stencil on there, going to paint it white. Alright, there we go with the white. Let's turn it around. Get a grip on it here without touching that other side. There we go. Now, I need to dry that really well, and then we'll do it again. Alright, before we paint those over black, I got to show you something. When I pulled the stencil, if I didn't notice it, I popped a little bit of paint off right down in here. So there's a little spot, but I went ahead and painted that white first while I had some white in the gun, because again, it took the blue and the white both off. If I'd have just put the blue over the top, it wouldn't have covered it up. It would still show up. So, instead, we paint it a little bit white first. We'll shoot on the paper, just let it hit. And there we go. That'll cover it up. Alright, now we're going to let everything dry really good before we come back and put the stencils back on. Alright, let's see if we can make these white marks blue, huh? There we go, right over the top of the white. Lay it down there, it's not laying on the backside very good. There we go, we're blue. Let's try the other side. Throw a little more paint in that thing real quick. Only put a couple drops in. Didn't think I'd need that much for that. Different angle on it. And there we are, blue. So we got our blue marks. Alright, all we need now is some eyes, a top coat. We'll look at it when we get all done. Well, there we go, guys. There's the table rock craw. Now, I'm not really happy with those craw marks. I don't think I went far enough up on the back with those. So before I use that stencil again, I'll get out the X-Acto knife and I'll cut those marks a little farther up the back. It should give me a little better results next time around. Hey, thanks for sticking with me. Subscribe to the channel if you would. Hope to see you again real soon.